Folks, welcome to number 6, the final video and final session of this 6-part series on healing the healers and humanizing healthcare. Congratulations to those of you who have been following this and listening to the videos and designing these healing habits into your life. And for those of you who haven't, I would urge you, there's still time to go through these videos. I will probably shut them down in a month or so, but I think you have a few weeks to go back and look at them and introduce them into your life. So I would truly urge you to do that. So this week's session, I'm so excited about this. This week's session is on accepting to heal. This one is probably in my life the most recent one I've introduced. Only in the last year and a half have I really been designing this into my life, and I'm very, very excited about it. But before we jump into that, just want to quickly review the sessions we've done until now. The first one was on simplifying to heal, and the second one was on meditating to heal. And the purpose there was really to simplify our lives, to create a clearing and opening, an opportunity for us to bring new habits into our life. And again, a little bit of decluttering, if you will, our mind and our soul and our being. The third one was on gratitude to heal. So important for me, I've discovered, and for others. It is such a highly generative healing habit. The next one was giving to heal, even more so. One of those most powerful, and again, been talked about and written about and practiced for centuries, if not millennia. One of the most powerful healing habits there is, I think, one of the most transformative. The one last week, number 5, was on being curious to heal. And for me, this has been probably the longest standing continuous healing habit I've been engaged in, well over 2 decades of training myself to be curious. I think it actually is one of the things that defines who I am, and really is the greatest value proposition, or one of the greatest value propositions I bring to my work. And then this week is now accepting to heal, which I felt compelled to include in this 6-part series. It is the reframe that I've only introduced in the last year and a half or so, and it is one of the most powerful change agencies I've incorporated into my life. So let's dive into it. So I'm going to first describe what I mean by accepting to heal. Then I'm going to give an example or two, and then the assignment or call to action. So here's the situation. You've been working on something, you've been planning something, you want to introduce something, and your thought, your comment, your plan, your initiative, you put it out there, and bang, it gets foiled. It fails. It just, doesn't work. Someone interferes, someone disrupts it, someone negates it, and someone subverts it, someone sinks it. And the natural tendency here for all of us, well, I would say most of us, including myself for sure, the natural tendency is to immediately think and or say, wow, that sucks. Okay, that really, really sucks. And you might add some expletive to that, but you get what I mean. And the next thought is, wow, it's those people, right? They don't get it. They don't appreciate it. There goes the finger pointing, the blame. And then what can also happen is you begin to point the fingers at yourself, and the self-blame, the frustration, the anger, the depression. Okay, so I'm sure that you can think of an example or two of this sort of thing happening to you. I can honestly say to you that I can think of dozens of examples of that and rattle them off to you. In fact, some of them happened just today in my own life. And so that's what happens. The accepting to heal, the reframe, is when you find yourself in that situation or in that moment of this really sucks, and you start to finger point either at yourself or others, the healing habit is to reframe and replace that with it's good. Okay, that's the thought, that's the comment, it's good, as Jocko Willink would say, or it's great. Okay, and now this is sort of a corollary to that somewhat trite statement now that people hear people say it's all good, but it's become so common that it doesn't really mean anything, and they actually don't act on it. But what I'm talking about is saying it's good, or saying it's great, or you could say it's all good if you want. But then the real exercise, the real healing habit, is actually very, very specifically and explicitly figuring out what that means. How is it great? How is it good? Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Let me give you an example of this. Actually, let me start with a small example. So I've been doing this video series, and I know that every episode, there are a certain number of people who are viewing this who are actually not going to view the video. And of those who view it, there are going to be a certain number of people who don't act on it, right? So the number of people that actually view it and then act on these healing habit videos is relatively small. I am pretty confident of that. And so the first, and look, I spend a lot of time preparing for these videos, writing them up, practicing them, and then videotaping them, and then uploading them, and then following up, sending them to you, and very, very heartfelt. And I think you could tell I'm quite passionate about it and quite interested in this. This is something that means a lot to me. So it's very, very personal and very authentic. And so knowing that and realizing that people aren't viewing it and or following through, I could say that sucks. I could feel depressed about it. I could feel deflated by it. I could feel demoralized by it. But what I will say is that I have been training myself and continue to train myself to replace that immediate natural thought with it's good or it's great. Now, how could that be? Right? You've got to be asking yourself, well, what do you mean it's great or it's good? After all that work, all that time, all that effort, all that intention, and for people not to listen or not to follow through, how could it be good? Well, actually, it is good, and it is great, and it's good and it's great in this way. I'm doing this because I'm trying to figure out how to express myself in an authentic way, how to create value and bring value to people around the specific set of issues of healing habits, and then to expand that to other work that I'm doing. And so a large part of the purpose of doing this is actually to learn how to do that. And so when it doesn't work, that for me is actually a tremendous opportunity. In fact, it is what I'm trying to learn. I am trying to learn how this works. And the way to do it is by coming across opportunities where it doesn't. And so I'm actually quite excited about following up and figuring out what I could do better to make it work. I mean, that's where the learning is. So it's actually, as they say, it's all good. And I actually really believe that, and that's the experience I have of it. That's a small example of it. Let me give you a larger example of this reframe of accepting to heal, where the thought and statement, it's good, it's great, actually is now being incorporated into business. And I actually could give you many examples, but let me give you one. This one is called the Lean Startup. This is a methodology that was created by folks actually on the East Coast and West Coast, some coming out of the Stanford Business School and School of Design. And it is I believe it's a 9-step methodology where if you're interested in starting a startup or a new venture, it walks you through a standardized approach. One of the first, I think it's step 2 or step 3, is really about rapid prototyping. It's the understanding that what you come up with, that first idea that you come up with, is almost certainly not going to be the final prototype, that you deliver to your customers. And so the step is really to go out and put this first prototype in front of your potential customers and don't ask them, do they like it or not? That's not the question. The question is, how could I make this better for you? How could this thing be more valuable? And to let them show you how it could. And to do that over and over and over again. And again, this has been so ingrained in this startup venture world. It is, for people who are successful, this is the path you must accept. You must know. It's a rule of thumb. It's heuristic. So much so that when I've interviewed entrepreneurs, highly successful innovators and entrepreneurs, uh, they call this being in permanent beta, realizing that the opportunity for you to take this and make this better that's the game. That's not only how you bring something to market, that's how you keep something in market. And we see this with digital products all the time. They're in version 2.0, 3.0, 6.0, 11.0, etc. It's so firmly ingrained in that literature and in business. And again, I've read this over and over again in leadership literature over the past year or so, and in the business literature. So that gives you a couple of examples of how important and how valuable this habit is of accepting to heal. The idea when you come across this, instead of "boy, that sucks," supplant that, replace that with "it's good and it's great." And then the question is, how so? How is it good or how it's great? And answering that question and very, very specifically and very explicitly is actually the healing habit. So again, as with other healing habits that we've covered in this series, this is different, right? It's different from the way we were trained and brainwashed, and different than most of our experiences where we're expected to come out of the chute and have it right, have it perfect. This is really about this rapid iteration, this permanent beta, this idea that it's the expectation that it's not going to be perfect, it may not be even close to perfect, but the idea of, they call it, again, another phrase is failing fast. And what allows you to fail fast and fail productively is this habit of saying to yourself, it's good, it's actually great, and it's great because ... So not easy, but I will say what I've discovered in doing this over the past year or so is that it actually gets easier the more you do it. It becomes almost a knee-jerk habit. I will tell you, for me, it is a daily habit at this point. I may miss meditation here or there, or not do it as much as I'd like to do it. I will tell you that I am doing this healing habit on a greater and greater frequency. And what's really encouraging to me and hopeful for me is that as I talk to and interview people who are creating a new healthcare, who are really very, very successful, this is the tool. I would say this for me is one of the most important factors in what they call grit or resilience. This idea that the realization that it doesn't suck, that it didn't work or it failed, it's actually great, and it's great because fill in the blank and then act on it. So the action in this final healing habit of this series is when you come across these moments, when you get, you bring in an idea, a thought, a comment, a plan, an initiative, a product, whatever it is, you bring it into the discussion, you bring it into the meeting, and it gets foiled, it gets subverted, it gets sunk, to move quickly from that sucks to it's good, and then how is it good? And that exercise of struggling and coming up with it's good or it's great because that's the key, and then act on that. So that is the call to action in this final session of Healing the Healers and Humanizing Healthcare. I just want to say that I have thoroughly enjoyed the past few weeks of thinking about these healing habits, preparing them, putting them into this video series and sending them to you. I hope, sincerely hope, that you've had the opportunity to avail yourselves of them and to benefit from them. And again, if you haven't, it's good, and you still have some time to do that over the next month or so, to go back and look at these videos and to bring them into your life and to design these habits into your life. And I'm going to be contacting each of you and trying to set up a one-on-one, looking so much for your feedback. And if for some reason we can't make it onto the phone or into a video a session, to a one-on-one session, I'm going to ask you to email me your very, very honest, straightforward feedback and comments. I know there's a lot for me to learn from this and to improve upon, so I'm looking forward to it. And again, it's just been a wonderful experience. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to put this together and to participate, for your participation in this. And until we speak again, as always, be well.